No, I saw no 0.0 USFL. Not because I'm opposed to it. I think it's fine. I actually feel badly for. No, I saw no 0.0 USFL. Not because I'm opposed to it. I think it's fine. I actually feel badly for football players. I've seen this many times, like firsthand, where a guy comes in, a reputable NFL player, maybe he's been out of the league for like half a season, but he still wants to play. Nobody will sign him. Comes in with a little duffel bag, gets like 15 minutes to run around in shorts in front of a coaching staff that is losing anyway. So who knows what their opinion is worth? And then they tell the guy, hey, thanks very much for coming. Here's a plane ticket home. See you next time. And so it's very borderline. Guys that make it in the NFL and guys that don't. And as a professor was pointing out on Friday, and he's probably right about this, he was talking about every offensive lineman that has pro capabilities is already in the NFL. Otherwise, you're just taking fat guys out of a Wawa, and saying, hey, Joe, put that sandwich down. I got a contract for you. I'm going to give you 2 dimes to play for the USFL team today.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
On a beautiful Monday, as we originate from South Florida here on On Channel, it's the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest and one Mike Lubitz. Always a pleasure to be with you here or anywhere for that matter, especially after a wild and wonderful weekend on the sporting scene. What didn't happen over this past weekend, Mike Lubitz? I mean, could you have asked for anything more? And it was a pleasure seeing you and the professor. And we also had, and it's a strong one, because we're at Hialeah Park on Saturday. I got down there for the fights. I ended up punching at another pari-mutuel facility during the afternoon, mostly fueled by the fact, I mean, this is one way to lure a sick, degenerate gambler into a place, offer them a minimum amount of free play.
Yeah.
And then when it seems like there's a significant amount that's been compiled, all of a sudden, that's going to be your destination of choice. So I don't know how much longer the Mustang slot machine winning streak can continue.
Yeah.
And I was figuring it was going to come to an abrupt end. I was also going to have to lay out a stick for my friend who, I don't want to say conveniently, because this isn't the type of guy that this gentleman is, but somehow I was not able to connect with my man Piscataway Ray before the Derby. To get the conventional stick that we bet every year. We put up a stick a piece, make a bunch of bets, so it's $200 combined worth of action, and that's enough to put you in the mix. I mean, you may be dead wrong about what transpired. I wouldn't say that the Polyman was dead wrong about Barber Road, although finished off the board, but was making a really monstrous move from the back of the pack at one point. You saw me get excited. In fact, I think I might have even popped a little Woody as I was watching this horse round in a turn, looking, and they have that little thing where they have the locators in the pockets of the jockey or whatever, and so you can kind of see where your horse is and whether it's moving or not. A real nice innovation. It's not always accurate, but I see the 14 starting to make a move just before the turn, the final turn. And is moving, and then I spot the horse, and he's moving like a rocket ship. Now, flattened out, I guess, a little bit in the stretch because it wasn't really a part of the equation. I think might have finished a non-menacing 6th or 7th, but was moving like a winner, and at least the strategy was right. You were going to go with a bomb in this race, but I get to Hialeah Park, and it struck me that maybe I should put a couple of more dollars on this thing. And Lubie, I'm not still lamenting this. I'm not going to whine about this on the air. Because I might have blown it anyway. But I was thinking, because I had seen so many people with their analysis, particularly the day of the Derby, talking about the horse Epicenter, the 3-horse, who went off the eventual favorite. Now, part of the reason I believed that horse was favored, even though it was a very tepid 4-1 favoritism, That was accorded to Epicenter. I was talked about with Zandon as the two horses that were most likely to end up in the winner's circle that day. And of course, they did run second and third. So it wasn't like the people that were forecasting this thing were way off in picking what was essentially chalk, although 4-1 and 6-1, hardly what you would consider to be an overwhelming favorite. But Mattress Mac had made a $5 million bet on Epicenter to offset one of his furniture giveaways.
Yeah.
This is what he does. He literally hedges with whatever it is that he's betting on, whether it's the Houston Texans in a playoff game or the Houston Astros in the World Series. Whatever he's betting on, it's to hedge off the money that he is going to potentially lose if it turns out, and he's rooting against himself because he's better off if he loses the bet. So losing the $5 million on Epicenter, he put $5 million on this horse. Is that enough to swing a few points? Even in enormous derby pools? Yeah, probably. So I don't know that Epicenter would have gone off the favorite. But as I'm, getting ready to line up, and I'm thinking I have enough action on the derby. I had altogether, I put an extra $30 in for myself, besides the bets I made for Piscataway, Ray, and me. And I felt pretty comfortable that we were released in there with a shot. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll throw like another couple of bucks and back wheel, which means put in second place Epicenter, who everybody was talking about that day, and just put him in second with everybody. And, of course, I didn't do it, Lubie. I sat there at the bar with you and said, have you seen Frankie? How are we going to get into the fights?
Pretty much.
Which we knew we were going to be taken care of. It was Hialeah Park. Of course, they were going to treat us like royalty over there. And how good were those seats, by the way, for the fights? Amazing. Yeah. No, that was great. The first couple of prelims weren't all that compelling. But that one kid that was in the snakeskin shorts, as my man Bob Alexander described them, wearing the gold and snakeskin shorts, whoever that kid was it? It wasn't Navarro. I think it might have been that might have been the previous fight. Was it Machine Gun Navarro? Machine Gun wasn't exactly a machine gun.
No. It was after that. The next three fights were
that kid looked good, man. That kid he was like 5-0. And he knocked out his opponent, who wasn't all that bad. I mean, had like a lot of professional background. Maybe not the most winning of fighters, but wasn't like a loser. And he looked great. Wow, knocked the guy out with a body punch. This double left hook was very much Leo Santa Cruz-esque, was it not?
He was good. The kid in the gold trunks. And then after you had left Uli. Remember our guy Uli, Ulysses Diaz? From
yes.
The, bare knuckle boxing.
Oh, that's your bare knuckle. I saw him coming out actually from the locker room. Yeah, he's a tough guy, huh?
He knocked his guy out impressively, like he always does, in the middle of the first round. And then the next fight was another kid who was really good and was pretty impressive. And then the fight after that was a cruiserweight for the cruiserweight title, and the favorite. And we joked that the blue corner, all the favorites were going to win. That didn't happen. The guy in the red corner came out blazing, and I think it went 2 rounds, and he won. He knocked him out. He stunned him. It was really good. The fight's really good.
Well, that's nice to see. Yeah, that I mean, you don't want all of the fights to look like setups for the house fighters, and they said they were going to be competitive, and they were. It was nice seeing everybody. Really, and well done. Once again, hats off to the people at Hialeah Park. Saw John Bernetti Jr. Out there, and of course Frankie and all of the good people, and Leon Margulies from Warriors Boxing, and Louis DeCubas was in his glory. Henry Rivalta, always making things happen.
Yeah.
Guy's a great boxing promoter, great ambassador for the game of boxing. Always just good being around the scene. I really, really enjoyed that Saturday. Now, the Derby, and there is, and this I abided by this time. I did not answer my phone on Kentucky Derby Day. If you are a degenerate gambler, any kind of horse player, never pick up your phone on Derby Day unless it's like D. Wayne Lucas comes up and says, guess what, I scratched out, but the horse that came into the race, he's going to win at 80-1, which nobody could have figured. Now, there was one small sign, Lubie, about that horse from the gods of gambling, okay? Because I was, plunging away a little bit on the races, kind of hanging out, waiting for the Mustang to exacerbate all possibilities of free fundage actually working out in her favor at the previous casino we were at. Of course, she comes to Hialeah Park and immediately hits for like a dime. So the streak does continue with the Mustang. And thank you, Steve Calabro, for actually having machines that you can win on. How great is that? She didn't even know what it was because they're kind of like a different sort of I guess the Hialeah clientele, they favor a different type of game. That's, not necessarily the same stuff that you'd see conventionally in all casinos. Although slot machines, and they have, everything you want. You want the quick pick stuff, they have that. But she's on a game that she wasn't really all that familiar with, and ends up making some punch and hits for, I think it was 9 sticks, actually, not quite a dime. So that made the evening even more regal, and made for a lot more of a pleasant ride home than the usual casino face that you get when you frequent other places. But there's a guy that's always talking. He does know a lot about the game. Good guy. And he actually says at one point during the afternoon, if you could find a proposition bet like this, what do you think the odds would be that the jockey Sandy Leone, who I believe is prominent on like the Ohio circuit, right? I mean, this guy, he's racing at dirtbag tracks, essentially.
You mentioned a lot of jockeys in the last 12 years, a lot of them. And I don't always recall the names, but I recall at least a lot of the names you guys have mentioned. I've never heard you mention that name. When I saw the name pop up, I was like, come on.
Sandy Leone. He sounds like a backup catcher for the Padres, doesn't he?
Yes, 100%.
All right, coming into the game here for defensive purposes in the 7th inning. Here's Sandy Leone. He's only batting $180, so hopefully he doesn't get in a bet. Didn't we have a guy named Sandy Leone as a catcher?
It's similar,
yeah. With the Marlins, what was that guy's name? The big guy, big chunky guy. I guess that describes a lot of catchers. But and speaking of which, wow, what a devastating loss. Have you ever seen a loss like that? The Marlins in their history.
I didn't see it, thank God. I was monitoring. I'm like, all right, finally, maybe they'll win again. Cool, put 2 together. Thank God, after this horrendous streak that they've been on. And then I came back. I'm like, what? 3-2.
That was Jorge Alonso. Was that the guy's name?
What
was a catcher? Alfaro. Yeah.
Former Marlin.
Former Marlin gets up, hits a pinch hit 3-run home run with 2 away in the 9th inning, and they lose for the, I think that is 7 of 8. Yes. 7 of 8 they've lost, and all of the 7 have been by 1 run. Can you imagine this?
Yeah, they either can't hit and the pitching's astounding, or the pitching is horrendous and they hit just enough. Yeah, it's been a really bad stretch when they had won 7 in a row, and we're starting to look impressive.
Now they've lost 7 of 8, all by 1 run. They had that 1-8-0 aberration in the middle of it against the San Diego Padres. Otherwise, if Don Mattingly, doesn't keep a cyanide cap by his bed, I mean, he is the epitome of cool and a real gentleman. We love Mattingly, but wow, what they're doing to Donnie Baseball this year is just pure, unadulterated torture. As I guess was the case for me, as I tormented myself for the next several hours, Lubie.
A whole day.
Because what do I say? It's the bets that you don't make are the ones that haunt you to your grave.
80-1. That's like, we love long shots, but 80 to like a horse that was put in Friday at the earliest, and we don't know. Yeah. I don't remember when it was actually put in.
Friday. I mean, Dwayne Lucas had a horse that was entered, scratched it out, and they changed the situation with the Kentucky Derby so that the field of 20 is not locked in. Because there is always the possibility that somebody scratches out the day before the race or whatever. And so they have the also eligibles, which is not uncommon at racetracks. So, Lubie, you'll see many fields that have also eligibles called AEs. And in general, they're usually regarded, also eligibles, especially prominent when it rains. And you'll have horses that are entered for the main track only, but then you'll also have also eligible horses, which means that they could work their way into the field if there are a bunch of defections. In this case, there was 1, and there were 2 also eligible horses, and the 21 ended up being the winner. Rich Strike drew into the field, and nobody paid any attention to this horse. This was rags to riches type of stuff. Yeah, no, they bought the horse for $30,000 out of a claiming race, and it was a small barn, small outfit. Sandy Leone is a jockey at Thistle Downs in Ohio. This is a guy that's more likely to be playing for the Indians than riding in the Kentucky Derby.
Even the Guardians.
And this is what the guy said. The guy at the bar where I was punching away says, what kind of odds could you have received? And it was a legitimate question, that Sandy Leone would have a mount in the Kentucky Derby. In other words, you can bet on almost anything now, Lubie, which is one of the beauties of life at this stage. I only wish I had longer to live, Lubie. This should have happened when I was in my preteen years.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would have been in even deeper heaven. But nonetheless, he's probably right. I mean, you could have gotten $1,000,000 to 1 that this guy would ever have a Derby mount, Sandy Leone. And he ends up winning the Derby. And, as they cross the wire, usually you recognize the jockey. Like if you're a horse racing fan, like you would recognize a football player or a basketball player.
You
And I'm looking, I'm going, who is that? Chop Chop? It looks like Jorge Chavez.
That's one of
back in the day.
My first thought was, what horse is that? Second was, what jockey is that? And you know all the jockeys. So when you're like, I don't know, I was like, okay, so this is the ultimate.
No idea. It looked like Renee Douglas a little bit. The guy facially had a slight resemblance to the old jockey Renee Douglas.
Like, oh my
Used
God.
to race down here.
Like,
So the guy was right, but that was the only indication that you could have had that I would not have even known, like you said, Lubie, that Sandy Leone was in the race. I didn't know what this guy was talking about. And Rich Strike, I had never heard mentioned by a single person. Now, people thought that I had the exacta in the Derby or maybe even the try because one of my standard plays and one of the first things I check for, actually, when I'm doing my modest, 3-second handicapping of a race, is the favorite beatable. And is there a chance that there will be a lot of frustrated people? This is where I got the idea from, because how many people look sick after they lose with the favorite?
Yeah.
But favorites often run in the money, first, second, or third. They win about a third of the time. And I would probably guess that another 20% of the time that they don't win, the favorites in a race, they finish in the money. They probably finish in the money maybe half the time. All right. So you have a good chance if you think you can beat the favorite, especially in a wide open field like that, of the favorite running second, which was Epicenter in this case, maybe sparked by Mattress Mac and his $5 million that he used to hedge fund off of a furniture giveaway that he easily made probably $20 million on.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what he always does. That's why people stopped hailing him, because they did the math. He was, oh my God, he put all this money, but then he also made 30 mil. That's the whole point. Free
how smart is this cat, man? I mean, he's got the formula down. And I don't know. I mean, how big? Didn't we pass Mattress Mac's furniture store?
Yes. Yep.
In Houston when we were there one of those times? Yeah. And you're looking going, what is this? It's like Crazy Eddie on acid, man. I mean, how is it possible that this guy is one of the richest guys on the planet?
Because he does ridiculous Bill, Mike Veck type of things.
Yes. And then making like multi-zillion dollar bets. I don't know if that was his largest bet, putting $5 million on this horse, but he is involved in horse racing very heavily, Mattress Mac, and he has the horse Run Happy. And I will credit him with this. He advertises on everything. I mean, we should hit him up for an ad on the show.
Honestly.
And he would probably sponsor it because we're talking about horse racing.
Yeah.
You would think that Run Happy was the only horse that ever ran. Like, forget about Whirl Away, Secretariat, any of the greats, that Run Happy was the greatest horse that ever lived, just based on the amount of publicity that's generated by Mattress Mac's advertising campaigns. So a couple of things struck me, and I was going to do it. I almost I thought about it. I might have blown it because I don't know why my brain locked, and I wasn't thinking, hey, why don't you just take like $19 out of your pocket, another 20. You already have like, over a stick invested in the race, and over two when you combine it with my action with Piscataway Ray. And why don't you just take a 20 out of your pocket and back wheel to 3? Right? So if you had a ticket for $1 exacta, all 3, that would have been worth $2,000, Libby. Imagine I would have been sitting there at the bar and just arbitrarily hit for $2,000 without any thought process whatsoever, ever, other than the simplicity of going with my natural first instinct when I look at any race. Can you back wheel the favorite legitimately here and come out of it with a nice profit? And some balloon was going to be involved there, but 80-1, I think, was unexpected. And now, did Mayo really have $2 on that horse, or was he making that up? He said he bet $2 on it to you.
I think he had something. He didn't. That second thing he showed us, where the person won like $2,000 or whatever, wasn't him. He didn't have that, but he had something on it and won something. Just because.
No, because he thought naturally that I did it, that I pulled the trigger on my back wheel of the favorite, which would have made some sense, right, in a wide open race. But of course I didn't do it. $2,000 for a $1 exacta. Can you imagine all the calculations? Now, had we been right about our bets, we would have walked away with about $50,000 off of that race. It would have been great. And the thinking wasn't that far out of the box. So I don't feel badly about it. You turn the page. I think there'll be a lot of defections before the Preakness runs in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And the more you think about it, how impossible is it to, I know it's been done a couple of times recently, American Pharaoh and Justify winning Triple Crown races under the auspices of Bob Baffert. And who knows what level of juice was involved in that.
Yeah,
And still strikes me. I have the vision of it. Jill Baffert with Bob, and Bob was kind of laid back. He seems a little bit out of it by comparison to, the kind of outgoing and very forward personality that he was in the past. Remember when we interviewed him? I thought, wow, Baffert's like Lupie.
Yep.
He started talking about Bodie and all of this other stuff, his kid, and you were looking at me like, hey, what's up with this guy, man? He's lost his mind. Used to be one of the most articulate and engaging conversationalists that you would ever find. All of a sudden, he's talking about, I tell you what, I'm thinking about writing a book. This, he was in space. Yep. But nonetheless, I mean, never will forget when we were leaving that restaurant in Encinitas after going to Del Mar, and Baffert's getting up to leave. And so, where we casually acknowledge, hey, yeah, that's Baffert, because we were with Todd Schrupp. And Jill Baffert goes to her purse to pull out some money to tip the valet Parker. And sure enough, a syringe falls out on the street.
Oh,
and you're like, I know she's not a junkie, so, what could that be? Unless they just doctored up one of those horses that won a stake at Del Mar, where he's still allowed to race, because he is obviously in California, as he was around the world at one point, a racing god. But no Baffert at the Derby. He did have some influence there. A couple of his horses were entered and trained by other guys. None of them did much. And you had this rags to riches story, very much like Mine That Bird in 2000. I guess that was 2008 or 9, Lubie. Mm-hmm. Mine That Bird. A very similar story, right? A horse out of nowhere. Maybe not quite the Horatio Alger trip that Mine That Bird had. But yet a horse that nobody gave any consideration to, and a jockey that we didn't even know was a jockey until he got off the horse, right? So that was pretty wild. Don't answer your phone on Derby Day if you're a horse player. It can only be people asking you to make a bet. That's all it could be. And it was amateur hour at the place. I was punching away at what will soon be a Harrah's property. I guess it is already, the Isle Casino in Pompano Beach, my hometown, right down the street there. So makes some sense to roll over there, even though we wouldn't mind extracting a few degenerate gambling dollars out of them for the amount of promotion that somehow is subliminally given to this place, because of the fact that, it is, a nice setup for horse racing, because they don't pay a lot of attention to it. And there aren't a zillion players, but there were on Saturday. Naturally, you know that everybody that ever made a bet in their life wants to have some action on the Derby. And there is probably, I don't know, I guess losing is far more frustrating for a horse player than just the anxiousness that's created when the lines are out the door to make a bet. And most people, and this is good, the amateurs don't know how to use the self-betting machines. That was a real plus.
That's true.
Now, I didn't see these staggering lines at Hialeah. They were handling their business extremely well by comparison. But, wow, I mean, the frustration of being behind a guy that is on a self-betting machine that has no idea what he's doing. And I'll help somebody out. Like if the guy turns around legitimately, I would far rather have a person that was ahead of me as I'm trying to get down on some race at Laurel that has 1 minute to post, turn around and say, hey, do you know how to do this? Then stand there and just stare at the machine.
Nothing, exactly.
And put the money in the wrong slot, right? I mean, and then they're frustrated. And it can get crazy. But I have never seen lines like this. I actually had to cash a ticket before I left, because I had hit a race at like Oaklawn Park, and I got most of my money out from not only the day, but my Derby outlay as well. And so, and that was part of the problem too. If you're a gambler, you can't be content. Don't be content ever. Because I was content. I was losing a couple of sticks, and I got it all back. And then I even got back the 100 I had laid out for the Derby with my pre-bets. And that was one of the reasons I was reluctant. I just said, you know what, that's it for the day, Defo. And so, of course, I left this 20 in my pocket and didn't come away with the 2,000. That even Mike Mayo, that's why he was sending you that. He was assuming that I did that I went ahead and made that wager.
Yep.
All right, so I was lucky. I took no phone calls. I didn't bet anybody else's money.
Nice.
I did lay out a stick for another guy. So, that always, that literally sticks with you. It's an appropriate pun. Because even though you know the guy is absolutely good for the money, what if I never see him again? I guess you go to your grave, with a stick to your name. So maybe, maybe I can leave it to my grandchildren in a will. All right, that was just one aspect of the weekend, the Kentucky Derby. The fights were great at Hialeah. Congratulations. I hope you do it again soon. Seemed like the crowd. I mean, is that like the perfect place to stage a fight? Where they had the thing set up, a little lightning off in the distance there. I got a little nervous there, didn't you, Lubie? Because
Yes.
I would have hated to see the thing kind of crash, and all of the work that went into it. It would be just horrible if it sort of went out the window there. But everybody was spared. It turned out to be a beautiful evening, and except I was a little worried that Bob Alexander, the ring announcer, did you see that wind whipping, man?
Yeah, it was.
I think, fortunately for the crowd, that's his real hair. Otherwise, if that was a hairpiece, if you had some ring announcer, like, I don't know, Johnny Eddie didn't wear a hairpiece. I'm trying to think. Really, nobody. Buffer, was that his real hair? Couldn't have been, could it? It was too perfect.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't
Imagine
know.
if Buffer, it was in that wind and, it turned out it was a wig all along, huh? That'd be crazy. But, yeah, great time all the way around. All right. Canelo loses also. I mean, think about this. You had an 80-1 shot win the Derby and Canelo Alvarez losing a fight.
That's crazy.
Dimitri, I want to say it's Bivol. Anyway, he wins. Now check this out, Lubie. I'm not a big fan of the punch stat because I don't really think it tells a story of a fight.
Yeah.
And they're very reliant on it for some reason. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to work a bunch of statistics into a boxing match. And, somebody could land like 80 sort of, half-ass punches in a fight and be out punching a guy 80-1. But if the other guy's one shot was a haymaker that landed right on the chin and knocked him into the third row, what good is that stat? It's rendered as meaningless as A-Rod and his crew rendered all of the, most meaningful numbers in baseball over the years. So I was never a big fan of this, but in this case, and you can kind of see this. I mean, if you're at the fights, you see it a lot. You'll see a guy's outlanding the other guy 2-1.
Yeah.
And should that guy not be, if he's landing effective punches and he's landing twice as many blows during the course of a fight as the other guy, you would figure that it would be a very lopsided margin on the scorecards. But we know it was in play here.
Mm-hmm.
The Canelo Alvarez scoring system, led and taught by the great Adelaide Bird, who probably, I don't know, she would lose out in a vision test to Stevie Wonder. She really would. I mean, whatever she was watching all of those years, Melvina Lathan and Adelaide Bird. And I'm all for the idea of diversity and having women scoring boxing matches. There's no reason a woman shouldn't be able to score a boxing match. Is there, Lubie? Women box now at a reasonably decent level. I mean, there's not a great deal of depth in the women's boxing game. But, there certainly are women that are accomplished boxers and can make it look good, like these two gals that headlined Katie Taylor and Serrano, I believe is the other woman's name, headlined at Madison Square Garden just the other day. It was monumental. It was great. I'm all for it. All right. So I don't mind. There was a boxing referee many years ago who was an actress out in Los Angeles named Gwen Adair. And she was a very competent referee. I mean, she got in there and naturally people worried, if two heavyweights are leaning on each other and they're throwing punches on the inside, how is a woman going to be able to get in there and separate them? But then Mills Lane was like 1 inch taller than a circus midget. And he was able to do it, right? So why couldn't a woman do that? But for some reason, with the exception of Julie Letterman, the daughter of the great late Harold Letterman, who was considered to be a very reputable judge and usually had a strong opinion about, rarely would you see like a Harold Letterman scorecard. I'm telling you, Jim, the Mexican is beating the living daylights out of this Italian kid. And it's easily going to be 2-1 in favor of Chavez. Remember Letterman? He was great.
Yes, I loved Letterman. He was classic.
I miss Harold Letterman on the HBO broadcast, but they don't even have the HBO broadcast anymore.
Nah.
So, and you know what? As much as I used to sort of have a little bit of like, I really don't know that I love Jim Lampley as a boxing play-by-play guy. Compared to the screaming Mauro Ranallo, I mean, Lampley is Don Dunphy. There's no doubt about it. With a lot of large words that he liked to throw in, much like I do to make myself look more intelligent, right? Even though I have no idea what I'm talking about. And anyway, this guy Bivol outlands Canelo 2-1 throughout the fight.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, he throws twice as many punches. He lands twice as many punches as I don't know what was up with Canelo. He didn't look to be himself in this particular fight. Now he's moving up to 175 pounds. Think about it. This kid started out at what, like 140?
Wow.
So he's 35 pounds up. Not uncommon to have a move up in weight as you progressed in age as a professional boxer. But 35 pounds is a big differential from where he started out. Now, he started out very young. He was like a teenager when we first laid eyes there on Canelo, and he had built up some phenomenal record in Tijuana. And, you know, he's always looked good. I mean, with the exception of his one try against Floyd Money Mayweather, gives a very, respectable account of himself every time in terms of being in shape, ready to fight, and bringing it to the table. I mean, he's not one of these guys that's just fooling around in there. A vicious body puncher and pretty relentless. And lately, he's been receiving accolades as possibly the greatest pound-for-pound fighter, not just in the world, but maybe among the best of all time, Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm willing to concede him that because very questionable scoring in the Golovkin fights. Probably could have lost both of those.
Yes.
And, again, Lara, they gave Canelo the decision there. So in this fight, he gets outpunched and outlanded 2-1 for 12 rounds, and he barely loses the unanimous decision. 7-5 on all three judges' scorecards. They gave him the first 4 rounds, even though he did nothing on all three cards. Unbelievable.
What a joke.
So nearly a screw job there. But that was a huge upset that happened. And now let's get to the gist of it, Lubie.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to go first? What ugliness do you want to explore first?
I don't know, man. I went into this weekend with so much hope.
Let's do this. Let's take a breath. We'll come back and get into all of this hockey and basketball now. John Kajemi, a little scheduling conflict with John Kajemi. He's got some new thing working, and we're going to work out some details. But I was actually thinking, Lubie, that if you were ever going to bag a football conversation for a day, today would be that day, no?
Yeah, there's not much going on right now.
Yeah, nothing. Zero is happening, except if you're following the USFL, which... Is there any interest in that left? The USFL, except for the professor now who's nailing bets. Yeah, that's a good gambler, though. Somebody that can find a game that you can beat before everybody else realizes how beatable the game is.
Exactly.
You know, before they remove the machine from the casino because it's paid off 3 days in a row. And next thing you know, it's on a cargo flight to Venezuela, right? Where it'll be in a casino there that only people that are members of the immediate members of the government can possibly, go in there and wager it. All right, so we'll come back. The Miami Heat now 2-2 with the Philadelphia 76ers. In fact, there are a lot of 2-2s going on in the NBA, are they not?
Yep.
All series are 2-2 with the exception of what? Oh, no, the Bucks are 2-1 up on the Celtics.
So the reason they're not 2-2 is because they have
Golden State. Yeah.
Everything's 2-1 or 2-2, which is weird.
Suns Mavs, it's 2-2. All right, as is the 76ers series against the Miami Heat. So, when did these guys play again? How come the Heat are playing every other day, but the Celtics play every other weekend?
Yeah,
what is that?
It. I don't know. I don't get it.
That's kind of a weird thing.
I think we get the games. I think their NBA games are today. Yeah, you get Celtics, Bucks, and Grizzlies, Warriors today. That is today.
Yeah. Jean Morant, though, probably out for this game. What was the deal? I mean, they made a big deal about this being a dirty play.
I didn't see it.
I watched this play like probably 20 times, and seeing highlights of the Jean Morant injury where he has some kind of knee damage that in all likelihood would prohibit him and keep him out of tonight's ballgame, right? That game is tonight.
Yes,
Grizzlies, Golden State. And that's been, the first couple of games were dynamite, were they not? Wow. I mean, you couldn't have asked for much more. Memphis in that first game, and then they win the second game with Jean Morant heroics.
Yep.
And then Golden State annihilated Memphis in this last game, and Morant went out. Now, the oddity is that the Grizzlies had a better record without Jean Morant and scored more points when he wasn't in the lineup, which was significant this year. 25 games. They went 20-5 without him. You can't even conceive of that, can you? How could this guy, Jean Morant, not being in a ball game, be an asset?
Yeah,
it's not like he's like a James Harden type, when he was with the Rockets, especially where, he was going to take 57 shots in the game. He doesn't really play like that. Where he's dominating the ball the entire time. He's just been phenomenal. So now what I think prohibit the chances of the Grizzlies winning though tonight, even though that they
Yes.
won 20 out of 25 games without him. It doesn't seem like they're ready to handle Golden State without John Morant
No.
in the lineup. Is that a fair assessment?
I think what you saw them do in the regular season, as impressive as that was, I don't see them doing that in the playoffs, like especially against the Warriors, the way the Warriors are playing right now.
No, and the guy, I mean, he's had. I still have visions of one of the highlights that two-handed slam he had, where he took off from just inside the free throw line and extended his body. I mean, this was a combination of the Walendas meet like a human Gumby, and just like flying through the air. It was absolutely fantastic. And you're looking at that, going, "My God, look what this kid is doing!" When everybody in the world knows that. This is one guy that you're going to try and attempt to at least make it difficult. Nothing happening there. But Golden State, you would have to say, with the Suns struggling now against the Mavericks, does Golden State now not loom?
Yeah.
See, there's another stupid bet that we didn't make, right? Lubie, everybody was saying, hey, watch out, and it wasn't necessarily attributable to the logic that Klay Thompson was coming back and that he was going to be this huge differential for Golden State, because he hasn't been that.
No.
Been okay. I mean, it doesn't hurt them to have Klay Thompson, I'm sure, but it isn't like all of a sudden he magically turned the entire fortunes of the team around upon coming back from this 2-year layoff. But it does seem like the team as a whole, and you got this kid Poole that emerged, is playing the best basketball of the teams that are left in the West right now. Although Dallas, very surprisingly, coming on against the Phoenix Suns, who ran away with the regular season title as the best team in the NBA. And, wow, what happens in that one, huh? Does that go 7 now, Lubie? What do you think?
The Suns should win that series in 6. I don't know what's going on in that series. Like, to me, the Suns are playing the best ball in the league, and the Mavs with just Luka wasn't going to be the team to stop him. I haven't watched a lot of the last 2 games. I just keep checking it via the score going, and I'm dumbfounded. I don't understand what's going on. Like, Dorian Finney-Smith has become a monster. Like, I don't get what's going on in that series at all.
Well, it turned around completely from the first couple of games. Of course, those games were in Dallas, and yet you would have had to figure that Phoenix would find a way to muster up a win in one of them. They called a lot of phantom fouls on Chris Paul in the game yesterday, and he fouled out, which didn't help because he is mostly, the metronomic presence there in the fourth quarter and often takes over in the fourth quarter and has guided the Phoenix Suns to many victories in that fashion. He'll have like 7 points going into the fourth quarter and finish with 24. And, hit all of his shots as, he's guiding the team down the stretch to victory in very clever fashion. Hasn't happened. So he was out of the ball game yesterday. Doncic is that guy in the park, right? That 3 guys would be draped all over him. He should have been a football player, and it doesn't even matter. He just bulls his way through to the basket. And how many times has he completely faked out the person that's trying to guard him with that up and under pivot foot move that he makes, where he pivots to the outside, and then all of a sudden he ducks under and has a layup, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
So, very interesting that that thing got knotted up at 2 apiece. All right, and then we have this thing going with Mike Mayo. I needed to hit that exacta for the 2000, Lubie. That's part of the reason I'm sick, because your Florida Panthers.
Oh, my God.
Can we say must win in that playoff series? Must win tonight.
Yeah, they're down 2-1. I mean, and they have not played well. They look like the team that Mayo thought they'd be, and that we're like, there's no way. They haven't played like that team the entire year. I mean,
Limp
they have
biscuit, my friend. Limp biscuit.
And Bobrovsky, look, again, they're not losing because of the goaltending, but what we've seen with the Capitals is they, at least with this other guy in, they can give up something defensively and not be ruined. Like, that's the problem with Bobrovsky. Like, the Panthers have to play amazing defensively and on offense for Bobrovsky to be okay. Like, if he gets barraged with shots, he's giving up a goal. Like, that's what the dude is at this point.
Yeah.
Like, the other Samanov, whoever that guy is, there was a point in that game where the Panthers had the puck on their end for 2 minutes straight, shot 5 shots at the guy, real shots, difficult shots, and the dude was just blocking everything. Bobrovsky, he faced 1 shot at the other end, and it became like, the dude is just not good. And hockey, you're not going to defend everything. Like sometimes the other team's going to shoot at your goalie. He can't just be a freaking sieve. Like, I mean, they're just a disaster. And it's weird because you would never expected it from what we saw all season long.
A goalie who loses his reflexes is not necessarily something that you want to pipes with a dinner at steak against the insufferable Mike Mayo, who now, I mean, has every reason to just gloat, I think, because no matter what, the scare that's been put into us is legitimate. And the fear is that once again, and I hate this when this happens, Lubie, as a sports fan, where everybody, puts a label on a team, because I'm thinking, what does this have to do with previous Panther teams? I know they have some similar players, but they haven't been to the playoffs that often.
Exactly.
I mean, in a handful of tries, it's almost like, the small sample of Barry Bonds when everybody said he was a postseason choker before he had like 2 monstrous postseasons back to back. Maybe ate it a little bit by the juice, you think?
A bit. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, not wearing out anymore in the postseason, but he had a very anemic batting average and just ridiculously subpar stats for any standard that you would associate with Barry Bonds, even before the juice. But he hadn't been in the postseason that much.
No.
So it was too small of a sample size to sit there and say, oh, the guy is a choker. And yet, if you just looked at it on paper and what evidence you had, it's James Harden II, who, by the way, all of a sudden, he shrugged that thing off yesterday, huh?
Of course.
What did he hit, like 9 threes in the fourth quarter there?
30-something. I don't know.
Right. Unbelievable. All right, we'll come back. We'll talk some more. Hialeah Park was a beautiful thing. Wow, how great was that? Everybody left happy. Had some great food and drink there. I mean, you're at the bar. Is that not a great setup? You're not a horse racing guy, Lubie, but how much fun was that, right? And I love the extra, burst of energy that you get with the Latin crowd as those guys were going crazy. You think those guys behind us had that 80-1 shot? I mean, maybe they were finishing off. There were a lot of ways to hit this race, actually. Because, they have that thing where you bet on Friday in the Kentucky Oaks. Let's say you wheeled a 1 in the previous day's race, so you were still going to cash like a big fat ticket there. That's what you want. Exactly the situation you dream about took place. But wow, what a tremendous energy boost you got being in there, Lubie. It wouldn't have mattered what you were watching, would it? It was just so exciting to be part of that crowd there in the champion simulcasting room at Hialeah Park. And then Mustang, wow. She says she loves that casino there. She really does. I mean, this is... it's becoming close to her, thinking about becoming a professional slot machine player. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
Professional slot machine player. She thinks she has a system. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I mean, in most cases, I have a system here that would be a representative of slot machines. I'm sitting right by the toilet here where you could easily just as well flush your money down the toilet in most places. Not at Hialeah Park. Absolutely fantastic. The payoffs are great. And, it was, again, I walked through the casino a couple of times in search of the Mustang. And just absolutely fabulous. The vibe in there on Saturday night was tremendous. Great job. I just want to salute everybody there at Hialeah Park. I mean, is that not a well-run event? No hassle whatsoever, huh, Lubie? You roll in there. Parking is plenty full and available on both sides of the track. You get how nice is it to walk outside there where they had the citation statues sort of
amazing.
Lit up and the old scoreboard there with the Hialeah Park logo, just absolutely incredible. The feeling that you get when you walk in this historical place and then modernized, I mean, with a buzz like none other. Just absolutely sensational what they've done with the casino and the conversion and putting it into modern times here is one of the best casinos that you'll find anywhere on the planet. Champion simulcasting room, great place to punch away. I'm going to make plans to get down there for the Preakness. So enjoyable. I spent a couple of days in a row at Hialeah Park, and I tell you, it always invigorates me, Lubie. Always makes me feel good about life to be around the people there at Hialeah Park that run the place and, of course, to experience the entertainment extravaganza that is Hialeah Park. Thank you once again, Frankie, for taking good care of us, huh? I mean, was that a nice perspective on boxing?
Oh, those seats were amazing.
Right? You're telling the guy, and no, it was Ortiz won that round. You're actually like influencing the judges.
Exactly.
By whispering in their ear. That's how close we were to the ring. It was absolutely great. All right, we're coming back with more here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz, Ion Channel, the place you find us. Google the Defo Show. A lot of people doing that. And then what is this audio streaming thing again, Lubie? It's defoandlubie.com/live.
Yes.
That's all you have to do.
Yes.
defoandlubie.com//live. And you can plug us in anywhere, right? And catch the audio of the show, which is fantastic. All right, John Kajemi not going to be with us today for Dateline Dolphins, but we will talk some hoops with Sean Devaney, a longtime basketball writer, and now with Heavy.com, which I'm not familiar with Heavy.com. I mean, have you logged on to this thing? I know Sean for many, many years, but what's Heavy.com? Do we know?
It's a site they have. I mean, that covers sports and everything else. I mean, that's what the world is. It's a website that covers sports and everything else. And he's written for Sports Illustrated. He's
been there, man.
I mean, he's been all over the place. So I mean,
this is no slouch. He knows his stuff. Yeah, going to be joining us in the second hour of the program. Sean Devaney on baskets coming up later on. All right, we'll come back with more. Much to talk about. I don't know how deeply people get into this whole NHL thing, and it does seem like an overwhelming deflation factor is taking place around town. With people throwing in the towel already on the Florida Panthers in this series.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We're not conceding this to Mayo, are we? Yet?
Well, I'm not. I'm not saying it's done just yet. I
don't want to be backed up against this 3-1 wall, though. I mean, it'll be disgusting tonight if the Panthers lose this thing to the Capitals, because at that point,
it's over then.
The fat lady might not be singing, man, but she's certainly getting off the toilet and getting ready to warm up the voice. Oh, sola mio. All right, back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. Now that. It was good seeing a Big O, man. He pioneered this whole idea a long time ago for himself, doing well for himself. He was out at the draft, the Big O, in Vegas. It's 7:46. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Francois Lebec. Good morning, Francois.
Listen to me one moment, please. You fat ass. Tired of the way you speak about the Canadians? We are good people. We're here vacationing on the beach. We bring our dollars here, and you're always putting down the Canadians, and me personally is sick and tired of your crap. And you're not losing weight. I saw you the game. You're fat like a pig. The other thing that I would like to say is that you're going to throw out some baseball. I will be there personally to boo you out of the stadium. We come here as good people, friendly people, nice people. We don't need you to speak like you speak, Jeffrey, the fat-ass Deforrest.
The Defo Show, featuring Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
Well, once again, everybody, getting the week started here on the Defo Show. Always good to be with you on these fine Monday mornings. Hey, peel yourself off the mat Monday. In what way are you peeling yourself off the mat, Mike Lubitz? Are you in peel yourself off the mat mode? You look energized and ready to go.
That was a rough
How you
week.
feeling?
I feel fine. Happy Mother's Day to all. Had a good Mother's Day. Just sporting-wise, like where we were in the last 2 weeks, it doesn't feel like that today.
No, I mean, the local teams definitely here, the South Florida teams, not looking too solid. Embiid comes back. If the Sixers lose the series, you would have to just continue to point a very ugly and fat finger in the face. Speaking of fat, Mr. Francois Lebec, a fat finger in the face of Doc Rivers for blowing the series because you see, I mean, even an impaired Joel Embiid wearing this Hannibal Lecter mask and with an eyeball that's sticking out the socket there on the left side and his hand bothering him. Humongous difference in the way that they're handling the Miami Heat in the last couple of ball games. When did Danny Green wake up? I almost said something else there, Louis. But when did Danny Green wake the fuck up? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
how did that happen? All of a
It's
sudden, he
about
can't
hook.
miss. I mean, this was a guy that you were thinking, and always seemed to be, a decent sort of fellow, right? Gives off a good vibe, Danny Green. But he's essentially, Robert Ory with less overall impact on a game. And he can't miss. I mean, he's shooting like he was J.J. Redick when he was with the 76ers. And wow, you see how revered Redick is if you saw the way that he was greeted by the crowd when he was the color analyst on one of the ESPN games the other night. He's made kind of a meteoric rise as a media presence, has he not, J.J. Redick?
Because he's willing to say the things that the rest of the schmanks won't. Like literally, all these people just say the same thing over and over again. And Reddick's made a ton of money playing basketball.
Yeah.
And I think he still plays. He hasn't retired. So he's like, I'm going to say what I feel. It's what you've seen with Pat McAfee. It's what we've seen with Charles Barkley. Like the people, that's what's funny with that. That's why you and I always mock people in management in the entertainment world, because the only people that do anything and make anything of themselves are the people that are different. But all they do is want to put people in.
They want everybody to be the same. Yeah.
In round holes that are square pegs.
Yeah.
And they constantly do it. But like Redick, the reason he's getting attention, it's not that he's spectacular. He doesn't do anything so amazing. He's just honest. He's like, what are you talking about? He's just like, you sound like a jerk. Like you're wrong. Like he just says stuff like that live on camera at ESPN. And they're not used to that. They're used to cookie cutter, generic nonsense. And Redick's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm good. And everyone
Yeah,
loves him.
I mean, he was making like $20 million a year for the last several years. He was in the NBA, and he was signing these one-year free agent deals for 20.
Yep.
So, I mean, just the last few years alone, he bounced around to a few different teams, right?
Yeah, for money.
And was an impactful player. He's not playing basketball anymore, though. He didn't play this year in the NBA.
I don't know. He may have retired. I know.
He's done. He didn't play this year. I want to say absolutely not to that. But he doesn't need the cash. That's for sure. Well, none of these guys do, right? That are doing commentary. I guess if you're like the non-playing color analyst, which does that exist anymore? Is there any color analyst in any sport that did not play pro ball in whatever sport that happened to be?
Were like legit. I mean, like Reggie Miller and Grant Hill. Like these were guys that are either Hall of Famers or borderline Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
for the most part. I mean, the one Kendrick Perkins is the one that played a long time and made money.
But he's saying ridiculous things now.
That's what I'm saying. Like he doesn't say. Like that's what like a lot of these guys have made money and still say cookie cutter bullshit. Like that's what I don't get. Vince Carter's made so much money. Yet if you listen to Vince Carter, and I actually liked him as a player, he just doesn't say anything. Like and most of these guys don't say anything, which is so weird. Where JJ Redick didn't make the money they made, but made enough where he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. What the hell do I care?
Yeah, and it is entertainment too. I mean, that's the other thing that people in management at these places lose sight of. And I don't know why, as you said that, for some reason, Lubie, I get a little sadistic pleasure in seeing that our former radio station that bagged all of its local programming at a time where it's never been more exciting in South Florida. Teams may have all lost over the weekend or whatever, but still, I mean, we've never had more different platforms represented in the sporting world at a high level. And then on top of that, some anticipation that some of these teams that have been, experiencing a very down period for a long stretch of time here, like the Hurricane football program, down by their, standard that they set in the day, and the Miami Dolphins, who haven't won a championship in almost 50 years. 50 years.
Yep.
Think about that.
Yep.
But we're still the most prominent element in the sporting landscape, or on the sporting landscape here in town, and actually have possibilities of doing something good. So for some reason, and I don't know, I mean, look, wait, should you revel in other people's failures? Because I was looking, they're almost at turn off the transmitter status, the radio station that we were working for before we started doing the podcast here. Unrecognizable audience. Immeasurable, and not in a good way, right?
Yeah.
That's sad. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The people in this industry, and what was their big thing was that, we want everything to sound the same.
Yes.
We have this formula. They managed to bury also a news station in the most exciting time ever in the history of the world in terms of. I mean, could you have more turmoil and aggravation and more division? This is the kind of thing that usually makes for a talk show that actually has success, right? Where you have half the people that love you, as the old formula goes, and the other half of the people absolutely despise you, and they tune in anyway because they just want to hate everything that you say.
Yeah.
Right. And the people that agree with you, they hate them too. But that's where the world is at right now, and you had a phenomenal medium to express yourself in, and all the people in management want to do is, oh no, you can't do that. What are you talking? You're going to bring in a live band into the studio? And I always think, I mean, that's entertainment, right? So you got to go Gypsy Rose Lee on this sort of stuff. Do you not, Lubie? That's entertainment, and that's what it's all about. And a lot of these color analysts,
all the same.
there are better ones out on the scene now than I think have been. And not everybody's great, and they keep trying to break in new guys. And this is a Mushnick thing. The new guys have a tendency that they just want to analyze everything, every pitch.
Yep.
Not every waste pitch in the dirt on an 0-2 count needs to have like another 2 minutes of commentary while the guy scratches his nose and puts his fingers in his crotch, grabs a rosin bag. Do they have a rosin bag anymore? What happened to the rosin bag? Or did they realize that was probably also loaded with illegal substances that was extracted from something that Bob Baffert's vet had just put on the legs of a horse? There you go. He's rubbing his elbow there with that rosin bag. I tell you what, you can't get too much of a grip there, right? Meanwhile, he's rubbing like shots of cortisone right into his skin there. Whoosh, throws the next pitch. It's insane, right? To think of all of these vapid color analysts that are involved in a game, and probably the most guilty of them was ESPN with guys that just. Mushnick's always saying, doesn't anybody in management have the wherewithal to say, hey, listen, why don't you talk half as much? We'll pay you twice as much money because you'll be that much better when it comes to this color analysis. But they'll go crazy, right? Analyzing something that has absolutely no relevance in the game. Every pitch.
Yep.
It's like after every play in an NFL game, there isn't necessarily something to say, is there?
No.
Just isn't. I mean, do you need Troy Aikman to tell you why a 1-yard plunge failed when the guy tripped over his own fullback as he was getting to the line of scrimmage, and there was no blocking there anyway because they were zeroing in on the Miami Dolphins offensive line for the last 20 years. Talk about running daylight, man. Wow. As we say, Stevie Wonder once again saw more daylight than Dolphin running backs did for most of the last couple of decades. All right, having a good time. The hockey thing, I don't know what to say about that because it's sort of mind-boggling that the Panthers, in a crucial game in a series when they had a chance to make amends for blowing Game 1 and looked to have all the momentum going for themselves after this brilliant performance in the second game. I don't know if it was brilliant, but it was good enough.
Yes,
I don't know.
Really well.
Were the Caps at one of those Carbone dinners or whatever? That wasn't happening yet from the Formula One race. What level of celebrity wasn't in town?
No.
How is this so big? The professor nailed it. I mean, who gives a flying one about Formula One racing?
No one. I've never, over the years, I've flirted with NASCAR even before my ex-wife, just growing up. On SportsCenter, you'd see Jeff Gordon and you'd see the jokes about Dick Trickle. And so I had an idea about NASCAR. I didn't really watch it, but at least I had a clue. I've watched some weird sports in my life or out there sports. I've never watched F1. I outside of Lewis Hamilton, and what was it, the Andretti's or whatever that family that had.
Fittipaldi's, were involved there.
I never watched it. I couldn't tell you. They made it seem like it was a Super Bowl. They did it such an marketing job. It was ridiculous. And then you looked at the track, and when we're driving by to go to Hialeah, you can see, and I was like, this looks schmink as hell. And then what's great is all the drivers were like, yeah, this was an asinine thing.
Oh, really? They didn't like the track? Yeah.
They're like, this is not regulation. I don't know what the hell they did, but
how could you possibly expect to, be expected to be any kind of I mean, you usually you would think of like, don't they do this on the streets though? They like modify the
Sometimes
streets of, Monte Carlo or whatever.
Monaco or whatever. Yeah, like
Yeah.
sometimes, like
So it is
something like
possible to make a Fugazi track, even around Hard Rock Stadium.
that. I don't know. There was a lot.
I could not believe the caliber. We've held 11 Super Bowls in South Florida, and I've been around for a few of them anyway. Um, I have never seen anything quite like this in terms of the number of not even A level. I mean, like the biggest of celebrities.
Super. Yep.
Right, Tom Brady was like overlooked. Hey, Tom, how you doing, man? You coming down here to buy the team? I mean, there was no speculation because people were all over. Like Matt Damon's walking in here, and
Exactly.
naturally, it isn't a party unless Jamie Foxx is holding court
Yep.
somewhere. But any worldwide celebrity of any acclaim whatsoever in any endeavor, whether it was sports, entertainment, movies, music, they were here for this stupid race,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Well, what happened in the race? This guy Verstappen, I saw an interview with him earlier in the morning when I was getting ready to get out of the house here. And, I said, okay, who's that? I don't know. And he won the race. What happened to your man, Lewis Hamilton?
No idea.
Nowhere? Nowhere to be
That's
seen?
the funny thing is,
track?
you paid attention more than I did. I didn't pay any attention. Like just because they had propaganda, and it feels like it was from Mr. On High. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't do anything to me. I don't care. And I'm
I'd rather see professional wrestling at the local shul
honestly.
than Formula One racing. Even if it was like, a local, C level of wrestling. I may rest in peace. But orchestrated by the late, great Rusty Brooks, who was a hell of a nice guy, right? With Dr. Red Roberts. Remember that whole crew? Was wrestling around here at various carnivals and Jewish centers. There's nothing like a B grade wrestling. Did I say B grade or C grade? I'm going to give him a B,
It's
right?
C.
Because, there's A and then there's, pretty much.
Everything else.
It's not like these guys aren't giving it an honest effort, but, for the $2,000 that the Jewish Center is putting up to have the wrestling matches, you're not getting The Rock.
No.
You're not even getting Dusty Rhodes at that point. You're getting, guys that decided, hey, like we would form a band and start playing some songs. We might be able to actually cover a couple of simple tunes like Sweet Home Alabama, Lubie, but, are we a real band? No. And that was kind of the level of wrestling that was. All right, we're coming back with more. We'll wrestle with some of these NBA issues. I mean, what is it? What happened to everybody else on the Miami Heat, Lubie, besides your man Jimmy Butler? And how is Duncan Robinson? The last time I saw him, he was going 8 for 9. I don't know that he's going to be the difference in the series. It just it's baffling that a guy could go 8 for 9 on 3-point shots and then be buried.
Spoelstra does this, and I like that they are deep, but that doesn't mean you don't mess with like Strus is giving him nothing. Like nothing. Hero's not the last 2 games hasn't done much, which is fine. You're gonna play hero. But sit Strus, put Robinson out there. Like, it's not like Strus is a dominant defender. Like, he's better than Robinson when he's hitting threes.
I think his nickname is Blowby.
Exactly. If he's not hitting threes, then what do you get from Strus? Like, Spoelstra gets locked into these things, and it's like, dude, it's okay to try new things. Like, you're not hitting threes. You were the best 3-point shooting team in the league. Obviously, the 3-ball is a big part of your game. So put out someone that can hit a 3. Like, they were wide open.
I mean, why would you have this guy on the bench for like 5 straight games or whatever it's
try it? Like, put him out. What is it? He's at, I mean, we know what he is, but you know what? He's part of them getting to the finals 2 years ago. So obviously he can do something. Like, not everyone on the Sixers is killing you offensively. So put him out there. Like, try it.
And then what was that? Was that Marquise Smart? He came back after
Marquise Morris.
Morris, yeah. Marquise Morris. I'm thinking
out there,
Smart.
but he doesn't have anything. I mean,
Marquise Morris, but I mean, he's off the bench after
the whole year.
He's been out since November.
So I'm like, you're trying him because Dedmon was out with an illness and it wasn't COVID, but he was out, so you needed size. Fine. Okay, well, you need a shooter. Like, you guys are literally missing everything. And they were wide open threes. Like, all game, and everyone, Vincent, Butler hit a couple.
I don't know how this happened. I mean, same thing.
Truce.
Same thing happened to the Cats, I guess, so far in the postseason. But I don't know. I'm still under the assumption that the Heat are going to win Game 5.
I think.
Is that a false assumption, Lubie?
Right. I've talked myself into it too. Look, I thought they'd all come back. I wasn't even stressed after Game 3. I'm like, look, Embiid came back, and they had all this emotion, and whatever. I could see the Sixers winning that game. Fine. The Heat, everyone played poorly but Butler. That's not going to happen in another game. Well, they all were horrible yesterday. But Butler played great again. Like, they wasted a great effort from Butler. I don't know what's going on with them. They settle for the 3 ball even when it's off. Like, I'm old school. Like, to me, you live by the 3, you die by the 3. And my thing is that's stupid. Once you're missing it, go to the basket. Like the Sixers,
do something else. Yeah,
dominating in the middle. They were dominating in the middle, and they still, we're just going to shoot threes. Like the Sixers were giving them the threes. It's like, why? There's a reason they're giving it to you guys. Like
any jump shooter knows that after a while, you're going to have to take one inside. If you're missing, all of a sudden you're 0 for 5 from the field. You better try something different. Just to break the ice, get a layup, do something.
I don't get it,
but not happening.
This is quarter. They were horrible. Like I'm watching the replays, they were just leaving them. It's like, guys, like come on. There's not that much on their team that you have to worry about.
Harden, does look like Butterbean Ash running around. He does. And he actually was getting to the basket easily, blowing by Heat defenders. And then Bam Adebayo's a different guy with Embiid out there on the floor. So, all right, that's all very interesting. I will say this. I think this is a fair statement. Giannis is a monster.
Oh, yeah.
Guy's great, and Luka Doncic is hard to figure out because it doesn't look. He's a lot like Jokic. I mean, he just doesn't look like he's doing anything, particularly athletic, or I mean, he's kind of slow moving and lumbering in his movements, and yet, wow, all of a sudden the guy's like Oscar Robertson out there. It's amazing.
Yes, 30, 20, and 15.
Amazing assists, blind behind the back passes,
like
3-pointers to the hoop, layups. No, it's pretty grabbing rebounds, pretty incredible. What those guys are doing. So that series out west, Dallas and the Suns 2-2. It looks like Golden State. If Morant doesn't play, I don't know why I feel this way. The stats don't say that. The record doesn't indicate this, but you would have to think Golden State prevails if Morant doesn't come back at full speed for any part of the remainder of that series. And, Celtics, Milwaukee, wow, what happens there? Well, we'll discuss it all. We're going to figure this out with Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, longtime NBA writer, Sports Illustrated. He's worked at a lot of different places at very high levels and really very thorough in terms of his knowledge of all things in regards to the NBA. So he's coming up in just a couple of minutes here on the program. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He's Mike Lubitz, having a good time. Do we seem a little missugared today? Peel yourself off the mat Monday. You were just ranting and raving, about your poor Miami Heat, which tonight's the night. Right? They play again tonight? No, they played last night. Yeah, so tomorrow night. And the Panthers.
Day of misery.
I don't think I can watch this thing tonight. I really don't.
I'm so stressed out.
You used to have to listen to Mayo bragging for the next 10 years. Because, I mean, this situation won't occur again. Much like, the opportunity to backwheel the favorite in the Kentucky Derby. That's gone. You can't reconsider, you degenerate slobs out there. I can honestly say, Lubie, the thought crossed my mind, okay?
Sure.
So I was thinking I should take all of these horses that I'm playing, which I used about 5-6 different horses, and put them over Epicenter. Now, that would have been the real blunder if you didn't take $19 out of your pocket. A 20, you were going to get $1 back. You could have actually said, okay, give me, one other bet here. And you would have walked away. I couldn't believe that exact. It was, 2 dimes for $1. Can you imagine?
That's
2,000 to 1 you were getting on that.
That's good.
That's the beauty of it, though. I mean, even if you took your shots and you missed, tell me that wasn't among the most exciting things. And then it looked like the 2 was there. It reminded me of that old thing, we used to do a joke about a little bit with Hank Goldberg when he was in the twilight of his radio career. And he'd be at a racetrack. And, this is of no interest to anybody but the guy that, had made the bet, right? Where, he's watching a race while he's talking to, trying to engage a radio audience. And he's like, is that the 2? Yeah, I think that was the 2. I have the 2, don't I? Yeah, I got the 2 on these tickets. And you're thinking, wait, you were just talking about how the Yankees are a cinch to win the World Series. I mean, that's a worse, deviation than even I have, in my hours of rambling here on the Defo Show on Ion Channel. But It appeared to be the 2 horse, right? Because they didn't even have another color for the 21 blanket.
No, it looked like the 2. We all
Looked
were
like the 2 with a little bit of dirt on it. And I was thinking, there's no entry in this race. Is that the 2B? That's what it looks like. Then there's this jockey that looked literally like he was coming off one of the simulcasts from races from South America. And you see the jockey come back. He really did, like a unrecognizable guy that pretty much looks like the other 15 guys in a race to the uninitiated, because we don't follow this closely enough to know who the jockeys are.
Just not. I thought you did. I seem to.
And the fact that this guy, sort of had implied that what were the odds of this guy having a mount in the Derby, and that's still ringing in my head, like there were some signs there, Lubie, all around this thing.
Yeah, okay.
Come away with nothing.
There's no way I was going after that horse. I didn't even know that horse was in it.
But you would have to have punched the all ticket where, it didn't matter. I mean, you were praying for like the biggest long shot in the field, and there it was.
Yeah, there you go.
And very, very a small change in thinking. Where are your balls when you really need them? That's the question. You can ask yourself in many endeavors in life, huh? Why are they just hanging so fragilely there and non-impactful when you really need that pair of balls, especially as a degenerate? Lift them up, Lubie. Lift them up. All right, we're coming back. Sean Devaney going to join us, Heavy.com, great NBA analyst, and then we'll take you out the door here on this Monday. Peel yourself off the Monday edition of the Defo Show. John not with us today and is going to be returning, in the next couple of weeks here on the program. But Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill is still a great spot to go. And, wow, I mean, it's getting to that time of year where the heat makes it prohibitive to even hang out locally here. So why not chill in the Keys, huh? Plan a trip down there, maybe do some fishing, get involved in some water sports. But if you want something great to eat and drink and a tremendous place to hang out for the day and relax, that's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. They do have accommodations there. They are spectacular. So check out jimmyjohnsonsbigchill.com for that. But, wow, the best food in the Keys in terms of an eclectic menu, right? It's not like you're relegated to a certain type of food. We only serve fish here. Not the case at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, and everything that comes out of Dominic and Jimmy's kitchen there is just absolutely phenomenal. We talk about it all the time, that Italian fisherman pizza. That is a unique dish, man. That could win some competitions, Lubie. I would imagine any pizza competition anywhere around the world. I mean, forget about that, gluten-free margarita pizza the Mustang's been ordering lately. That tastes like eating a hockey puck. These things are absolutely fantastic, and all the way around. I mean, Lubie, you had one with like a fried egg on it, man. It was
yes, we had a breakfast one. It was great.
Breakfast pizza, yeah. Absolutely enjoyed that with bacon and all kinds of stuff. I mean, they can create a lot of different things there. And what they do create is a tremendous vibe, and you'll get the feeling of the Keys. And at the same time, it's not like you have to wait an hour to get a cocktail or something. I mean, just they're right on top of the service aspect of things at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104. The grounds are spectacular. You're going to love hanging out there, whether it's at the Tiki Bar, inside in the sports bar, or out there by the pool. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He's Mike Lubitz. We're peeling ourselves off the mat here on the Defo Show on a fine Monday. Glad to have you guys along for the ride, and back with more in a moment. Now that
the time
it's 8:12.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
So there was a point there where I was getting frustrated during the Miami Heat game against the Philadelphia 76ers. And I turned away for a while because, you can sort of see the pattern of an NBA game. And once in a while, it's good to just flip it off, watch something else, and hope that when you come back to the game, if it's not going well for the team that you're rooting for, hope that pattern has changed, right?
That's me to a T.
Kind of, like every now and then you're watching a horse race, you're getting torched at the track. Here comes race number 7 at Belmont. Your horse is nowhere. And, you just turn away from the screen for a while and hope that this horse is finally making a move by the time you look back, right?
Yep.
And so anyway, I zeroed in for a while, and I sort of got engrossed in the way that they were doing this in Winning Time on HBO during the late third quarter, early fourth quarter of the Miami Heat game, Winning Time. And once again, I mean, it's amazing that they could make Pat Riley look like Joe Pepitone. It just remember Pepitone had a bit of a schnoz there that it's almost Jimmy Durante-esque. No, I mean it was a cross between like Pinocchio and Carl Malden. I mean, but a very appealing aspect of his whole persona, Joe Pepitone. If you see any caricature of the great Joe Pepitone, he's long gone, isn't he? Pepitone, is he still alive? I'm going to say.
I think so. I'll look it up. I think so.
I got to go dead on Joe Pepitone. No, I mean I should notice it's a disgrace. If he's alive and he's doing autograph shows, we apologize, Joe. He's alive.
He's 81. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's 81. But yeah, he's alive.
He's not very much alive. You're saying Pepitone?
It says he's alive. It says born and gives us the age, and it doesn't say died. So he's alive. So
all right. Why did I think he was dead? You thought he was dead.
I haven't heard of Joe Pepitone in years.
Until they put some actor in, a movie about the Lakers. A supposedly, a movie or a series that's based on some element of truth, and they made Pat Riley look like Joe Pepitone, which is what they did. Yeah.
The truth is their names, like outside of the fact that I think they win the games that they win in real life. It seems like they took dramatic license with every character in the entire freaking thing.
Dramatic license? My God. Now, is that it for the series? Because the Lakers won the championship. Or is this going to be an ongoing thing on HBO?
They're supposed to. It's supposed to. Jason Segel. No, he was also the one that was also in my buddy's movie. He came out and said, well, this is just laying the foundation for like the future, because it's like a TV series. They're supposed to go through the years of the Lakers dynasties, because they had multiple dynasties. So it's supposed to go through this, then the down, and then up with Shaq and them, and then down, and then up with Kobe.
Oh, they're going to keep going with this thing? Oh, my God, Bobby.
That's where they discussed it, yeah.
What are they going to do to Shaq?
Shaq and Kobe are going to be such a soap opera. It's not even funny.
That's going to be wild. I mean, all right. So this is only the beginning, as the Chicago tune would be. Okay, sounds very, very good. Because I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the portrayal he's got. Jerry West is going to end up getting like $1 trillion off this stuff. The disgrace that they've made of this man's life.
He probably was a competitive piece of work, but they made him out to be a total asshole.
You couldn't paint a portrait of a bigger asshole than they've made Jerry West seem to be in this show.
I mean, come on. Kareem, fine. We've heard that Kareem was standoffish. You saw it in front of your face. So even if they took that a little far, we all believe that. Like, okay, but
Paul Weston is a snibbling wimp of a coach.
Yeah, come
Also, I mean,
He had him
seems to
on.
be a bit of a stretch. Yeah,
he had him on in
he was
his
a very
80s.
dignified, sophisticated guy. He invented like
great.
systems that nobody ever thought were conceivable. Take a shot every 5 seconds. Remember, it was fascinating. He was like in his 80s when he came on the show.
Yep.
And he was still a fascinating, compelling speaker. I mean, you can't ever picture him as this like snibbling, jellyfish, spineless man who, has some integrity, but, really wouldn't have done anything if it wasn't for Pat Riley. And then this whole thing with Jack McKinney. I don't remember Jack McKinney being like a bozoic, goofy-looking professorial type. He was a fairly decent-looking guy, Jack McKinney, and looked very authoritative when he was coaching the Lakers during the beginning of that season. And it was considered, a real tragedy, man, when he hit his head on the rocks there as he was riding that bike. But nonetheless, I found it wildly entertaining. And when I did flip back to the Heat game, they were in a worse position than they were when I turned away because James Harden all of a sudden realized that, you know what? I don't have to go to the basket. I can just eat Malamars and stand out here and chuck threes. All right. Very good. All right. Sean Devaney, are we going to connect with Sean Devaney, Lubie? What's the story with that? As Sean Devaney from Heavy.com is scheduled to join us here on the show. I thought you had him. That's why I was.
Yeah, I'm trying. My thing's being weird, but he's there on the phone.
He is there on the phone. All right. All right. So, okay. We're ready. Sean, I hate to ask this question because it seems so primitive during the broadcast. Are you with us, Sean Devaney?
I am, yes.
Oh, good. Okay. We were having a little problem making a connection there. How are you, my friend? NBA playoffs in the second round. We got a lot of 2-2s and 2-1s, and it's sort of fascinating from a lot of different aspects so far. How are you doing? And how's it been going with Heavy.com?
Yeah, everything's good. This has been this is kind of the second round that I think many of us thought we'd get. That the level has certainly gone up, and you've seen some pretty good matchups across the board here. So Dallas coming back, and the Sixers coming back. After those 2-0 deficits, both of those have been really, really good series, really interesting series. I think where the Celtics and Bucks are, that's interesting. So yeah, we've seen across the board some pretty good situations here.
Does a day pass where you don't consider what kind of lunacy it was for Doc Rivers to self-sabotage the 76ers by leaving Joel Embiid in a game they were leading by 29 in the fourth quarter after he had battled injuries throughout the series, and no team in 2,500-plus tries has ever come back from 29 down with that little time left in a game? Should we still be talking about this, even though Embiid, especially now in light of the fact that Embiid has come back and even not at 100% full strength physically, with a mask on and a bad thumb and an eyeball that's bulging out of his head, he has been that much of a differential in the series. Should we not point a finger every day in Doc Rivers' face and say, what the hell were you thinking?
Well, I mean, certainly if they come back and win the series, that's probably the only way that gets buried. But until then, no, I mean, it always is amazing, and probably Derrick Rose is the poster child for this. What happened in, I think it was 2013, 2011, where Thibodeau had him out on the floor and he winds up blowing out his knee. It really messes up his entire career. Joel Embiid is in that category of guys who's had so many injuries over the course of his career, not just this year, of course, but going back to when he first came into the league, that if you have the opportunity to get him out of the game, any game, you get him out as soon as possible. I mean, you just have to. That's a fair criticism of Doc Rivers. If they win this series, then maybe that gets pushed aside. If they don't win this series, that's going to be something that'll be brought up all summer, and perhaps when Doc Rivers leaves Philadelphia in the off season and heads to the Lakers or somewhere like that.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, we were speculating this guy should not only have not been on the bench, he should have been past the team bus and maybe even sitting on the tarmac on the team plane that was going to be headed for Miami, because it was preposterous. And the only other guy, I mean, we could think of that might have made that move was Gino Auriemma, who had that Paige Beckers in a game with like 38 seconds to go when she got hurt, even though they were up 70 over Quincy College that just happened to put together a women's team the week before they scheduled a game. It seems outrageous that he wasn't receiving more scrutiny for that. But now has him at 2-2. So has Embiid been that sole difference maker? What happened, in your opinion, Sean Devaney, those last couple of games in Philadelphia as compared to what looked like fairly easy Heat dominance in the first two that they played here in South Florida?
Yeah, I mean, Embiid is such a big part of what they do. Their whole offense, even with James Harden out there, is built around Joel Embiid. And so if he's not out there, it's a pretty severe drop off to the combination of DeAndre Jordan and Paul Reed. You can survive even losing James Harden. You can survive that if you're the Sixers. You can't survive playing without Joel Embiid. So much of what they do is built around going inside to him and then moving the ball back to the outside. They like to get the ball into the paint and then get it back to the perimeter. If you don't have a guy who you respect as a defense in that paint, then that strategy is pretty easy to defend. So yeah, he does make that much difference. Even if he took 13 shots yesterday. Did take 13 free throws as well. So obviously they were running the ball through him quite a bit. But even at 13 shots, that's enough. He's got so much weight, so much gravity that you have to respect as a defense. That not having him out there, it just become a really, really easy team to defend.
Talking with Sean Devaney, NBA writer, reporter, analyst here. Following him up on Twitter at Sean Devaney. What's interesting is, as well as Harden ended up playing, as well as Danny Green has turned back the clock the last two games, Embiid has actually given them a lot more in offense than a lot of people, including myself, would think. He were in it until the 3-4 minute mark of both of the last two games without anyone doing anything. Like Jimmy Butler was doing his best Michael Jordan impression or LeBron James impression, and no one else was doing anything for the team, yet they were still in it. To me, it was that game yesterday was like the definition of what the NBA has become, where in the past I grew up with the saying, you live by the three, you die by the three. The Heat were great shooting threes all year. That's wonderful. But as I learned from a young age, if it's not falling, fine, get to the basket, get to the free throw line, be aggressive, which seemed to work. Like when Jimmy Butler and Oladipo, when they were going to the basket, they seemed to score. But the Sixers kept giving them open threes. They kept bricking the crap out of it. And it sort of killed them in the end. What have you seen from the Heat that it seemed like they weren't doing all season long, that they did a lot yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the three-pointers, that's the big thing that stands out, that if you're going to go 7 for 35 from the three-point line, you better have a plan B. And we've seen that a lot in the playoffs. Watching the Celtics in game one of their series, it was that they took 53s and they did not shoot well. You see teams that they shoot themselves into a deficit, and their only thought is, the only way for us to get out of this is to shoot our way back into it. And you're not going to, you shoot yourself into a bigger deficit that way rather than putting the ball on the floor. And a lot of credit goes to Jimmy Butler and Victor Oladipo, as you mentioned, getting to the line 13 times for Butler, 10 times for Oladipo. You've got to have a plan B, and the plan B has to be to attack the basket and try to get those shots. And look, one thing that's happened too is that there's become, because of the analytics and all the things that say that an 18-foot jumper is the worst thing you can possibly do. So many teams shy away from those shots. And you've got to be willing to take those mid-range shots. You've got to be willing to take those. It might be a 45% shot rather than a 40% shot at a three-pointer. But sometimes that's what you've got to do. You can't be afraid of taking those mid-range shots, and that's something that teams need to keep in mind in the playoffs. Look, defense are going to take away the basket. They're going to take away the three-point line. So you've got to be able to go in the middle there and get those. You get 2 points. It's the hard way, but it's the playoffs. You got to be able to do that.
Talking with Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, longtime NBA writer and analyst, been with many different organizations at the very top of the business, including Sports
Sir.
Illustrated, and always good to have him on the show. All right, if you looked at the regular season, you would have to say you wouldn't have been considered criminally insane if you thought Milwaukee and Boston was going to be a contentious series and, a very hard-fought victory for whoever emerged and made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the wisdom sort of changed a little bit, and public sentiment, as Boston was looking so good in sweeping the Brooklyn Nets out of the postseason, a team that a lot of people, we talked about it, that everybody said as a seventh seed, are they not a dangerous commodity? It turned out not to be the case, but Boston looked so impressive in that series. And Middleton was out for Milwaukee, and suddenly the world was on the side that the Boston Celtics would prevail in this series. So what's happened with Milwaukee up 2-1, and what do you foresee? I mean, what can change? Because you're thinking Boston probably comes back, evens it up tonight, and this is one that'll be a dogfight going 7. What do you see in Milwaukee-Boston so far, Sean Devaney?
Yeah, I saw in the first two games, even with the loss, that the Celtics had a pretty good plan on Giannis Antetokounmpo, and were able to keep him under wraps. He shot 40% from the field in the first two games. He was scoring. He scored an average of 26 points in those first two games. But between Al Horford and Grant Williams, they were doing a very good job on Giannis defensively. Giannis was probably a little too stagnant. He wasn't moving around enough, wasn't going downhill enough, attacking the basket, which is what he likes to do. From what I saw in Game 3, that was the big difference for Milwaukee, was that they changed that. That they got Giannis into space where he could, really step back and get a running start at the basket, and that's what the Celtics on their heels. The Bucks did not shoot well in that game. They were 26% from the 3-point line. They didn't get a lot of very efficient play from everybody else, but Giannis, 42 points. 12 rebounds, 8 assists. He's been a terrific passer in this series. That's been an underrated aspect of him. But he's really that's where this series, as good as Tatum is, as good as Jaylen Brown is, this series is going to revolve around what Giannis Antetokounmpo was able to do and what the Celtics are able to take away. They did a good job taking away a lot of what he wanted to do in games 1 and 2, not so much in Game 3. We'll have to see how Ime Udoka and that defense, how they adjust in Game 4.
Many people thought that Budenholzer, he was kind of considered a bozo, Mike Budenholzer, until he won the championship last year. And even in the process of doing that, it seemed like he was getting little consideration as being one of the great coaches of all time. Certainly not going to be mentioned in any context along the lines of a Red Auerbach or, even a Phil Jackson. But it's interesting, Sean, that you just said that, because we're crediting Budenholzer now with making some moves, and he clearly would have had to make some kind of positive adjustment to account for not having Middleton in the lineup. So are we overlooking the job that's being done by Mike Budenholzer, who was always, it seemed like, the subject of and the topic of derision, or, subjected to derision while he's been coaching the Milwaukee Bucks for their previous failures?
Yeah, everybody on Twitter is Jim Naismith, of course, and that's what I've noticed over the years, how that developed. The thing about Budenholzer is that he was always reluctant to make adjustments. He sort of set his team up to play the way we're going to play. This is how we're going to play, and if it's October and we're in the fourth game on a Tuesday night, we're going to play the same way as if it's the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
That was a valid criticism of him, no question. He's done a good job, and it began last year in terms of adjusting the way that he plays and throwing some wrinkles in. Change the defense a little bit. They used to never switch. Now they'll switch. They'll throw different looks at you that they really weren't doing before. So he has evolved somewhat. I don't think there's any question about that. But he's always been a really good coach. I mean, he came from the hip of Greg Popovich and brought a lot of those principles with him and was very successful in Atlanta. and is now very successful in Milwaukee. The big key has been getting the success in the playoffs, and that's been where you've really seen the growth and the development of him as a coach. But yeah, the adjustments that he's made, those are things that maybe he wouldn't have done 4 years ago. But certainly we're seeing that. We saw it last year, and you're right, he didn't get enough credit for the way they played last year. And this year we're definitely seeing it again.
Sean, last couple of things here with Sean Devaney. Again, follow him up on Twitter at Sean Devaney, taking it out west. And before we get to it, I'll let Defo get to this one since he's been all over the Suns a lot more than I have. That most probably surprising series that remains in the NBA playoffs. The Western Conference, other semifinal, Warriors, Grizzlies, felt like, especially after the first round, that would be very much like Celtics Bucks. Like that would be the series that would be back and forth and high-flying offense, but teams that play better defense and they get credit and, really solid, sound coaching. What happened in the last game 3 with John Morant? So I finally just saw the video, and I don't know what there's to complain about. So maybe you'll tell me. I'm from here in South Florida, where I watched the Heat and the Knicks kill each other in the 90s. So I'm still sort of old school in that regard. Like, I know Morant was complaining about what led to now an injury that may totally change the series. Watching the video, I didn't see much there. Like, what were your thoughts about, first of all, how that injury came about, and then, of course, what you think it'll do for the rest of the series?
Yeah, I think there was, obviously, you go back to the previous game where Gary Payton Jr. gets hurt on that elbow injury that I watched once and I will never watch again. Don't like seeing stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, to me, Steve Kerr came out and did a lot of talking about that. Probably, just protecting his player, not using a lot of logic. I don't think that Dylan Brooks, the guy who hit Peyton on that play, intended to injure him or anything like that. So yeah, I thought that what you saw from the Grizzlies after the injury to Morant, which was clearly just an incidental play to me, was sort of a reaction to what Steve Kerr said. So I think you've got two coaches who are trying to appear as though they're protecting their players, whereas when you actually watch the plays, you can see, all right, well, they were just playing basketball. Like, that was happening here. And when you play basketball at this level, you're running the risk of injury, and that's what's happened. So yeah, I didn't see anything dirty on either side. I think both coaches are just trying to make sure that the players know that they've got their back, and that's pretty much all that I saw in both of those plays, really.
Saw rougher incidents on Dancing with the Stars when Len Goodman was giving a demonstration. I didn't see much there, honestly. I know the complaint was, that possibly, that this was as outrageous as what happened when, a guy's in midair and, essentially he didn't get low bridge, but, was slammed to the floor while he was extremely vulnerable. But that didn't look like much to me there. Now, the oddity, Sean, just quickly also is that, for some reason, the Grizzlies' record of 20-5 was even more impressive. They scored more points, which is hard to conceive of with Morant out of the lineup. Does that hold up in the playoffs, though, that this still is not an unfavorable situation for them?
No, if you go back and look at a lot of those games in which they did that, they had other advantages in terms of, playing at home, playing weaker teams. I don't put too much stock in that. Obviously, you could do that in November. You're not going to do that in May. You're not going to do that against the Golden State Warriors, as we saw in Game 3. To me, the Warriors are a team that is going to get better. Because don't forget, when they started the playoffs, Steph Curry hadn't played in a couple weeks. So, they're just really starting to find their stride. I think they scored 142 points. I think you're starting to see them play up to their level, up to their capabilities, and they're going to get better and better. From Phoenix or Dallas, for that matter, they really scare me because they're just starting to scratch the surface of how good they're going to be in this postseason. So as good as Memphis has been without Morant in the past, that's not going to hold in the playoffs, especially not against the Warriors.
was mentioning this earlier. Sean Devaney, Heavy.com with us. I wanted to touch on this Dallas series, also very compelling right now against the
Crazy.
Phoenix Suns. When it appeared the Suns after they lost Game 3, you're thinking, all right, they win Game 4. They wrap this thing up at home in Game 5. Turned out to be anything but the case. And every time I see Luka Doncic, he reminds me of this kid that I knew in my youth named Joey Venata, who was, the neighborhood's best athlete, and he was, kind of an overpowering guy that he would carry 30 kids on his back into the end zone when we were playing football in the sandlot. And it doesn't matter how many guys are draped all over Doncic. Without being especially athletic looking, it doesn't appear that he's overwhelmingly quick. It's not like he leaps out of the building and impresses you, that he could pick a quarter up the top of the backboard. And yet, I mean, all he does is score under any circumstance, like virtually unstoppable. How much of a dynamic change in those last two games? I mean, for the Suns to, just succumb relatively easily to a Dallas Mavericks team that they had handled pretty well in the first two games of the series. I mean, that was a dramatic turnaround. Where do you see that series going?
Yeah, I think certainly credit Luka. Phoenix did a pretty good job in terms of making him, inefficient. He was 9 for 25 in the field. I think the big thing about Dallas and what's been impressive, and I never gave Jason Kidd much credit as a coach when he was in Brooklyn, nor when he was in Milwaukee. But you've got to give him credit for what he's done with the Mavericks defense. Because they have completely shut down Phoenix these last two games. Really, after like you said, the Suns scored 120 points in each of the first two games. They go to Dallas, and the Mavericks are able to really shut them down in a way that they just weren't able to do on the road. So you've got to give that defense a lot of credit. If you can play that level of defense and you've got Luka Doncic, you're always going to have a shot. You're going to need somebody else, So they had Jalen Brunson in Game 3. He stepped up with a huge game. Dorian Finney-Smith, who's not somebody known for his scoring exploits, at 24 points in that Game 4. You're going to need somebody else alongside Luka, no question. But if you can play that level of defense where you're holding a team like Phoenix under 100 points, then you're going to have a chance. As long as you've got Luka, you're going to have a chance. You need one other guy, and they've been able to find that in Game 3 and 4. We'll see if they can take that on the road. But that defense has really been the real key for Dallas. That's been a big difference in them.
All right, final thing, Sean Devaney, I always appreciate your time here and excellent analysis as always when it comes to the NBA. Heavy.com is where you'll find Sean Devaney's work. Outstanding in terms of giving you the daily coverage that you guys will be looking for if you're an NBA fan. Biggest disparity, truth to fiction, in the portrayals of any of these three individuals in Winning Time. Would it be Pat Riley, the portrayal of Pat Riley, Jerry West, who is certainly taking offense at the way he's being depicted, or Paul Westhead, who appears to be a sniveling, spineless jellyfish of a wimp, when we know that he was one of the more innovative coaches and a very, very confident guy throughout his coaching career. Most far-fetched portrayal in Winning Time of an individual would be whom, Sean Devaney?
Yeah, Jerry Westman has been the guy who's been probably the most maligned and has publicly said so. But I'd probably say Weston. I agree with you. I mean, he was a very good coach who ran into an already entitled superstar, Magic Johnson. So that whole mess was more on Magic Johnson than it was on Paul Westhead. And we won a championship, by the way, with them. I found that. And Jerry West, he's been right to complain. It's been cartoonish the way that he's been portrayed. But he'll be the first to tell you that he was a miserable SOB to work with. If you read his book, he says that repeatedly, that he has a lot of regret about how he conducted himself. Still, he was never somebody who would throw things, and some of the things that have happened just on that show are absolutely ridiculous. But I'd probably say Westhead. I mean, just he was a really good coach, and people forget that. But that was more about Magic Johnson than it was about him.
Westhead, in a quiet sort of way, was every bit as sophisticated as Pat Riley in terms of his presence on a bench. I mean, he dressed well. I mean, not quite as flashy as Riley. He made a good presentation of himself at any time, and is extremely articulate and confident
Yeah.
to the point where, I mean, he invented one of those Bill Walsh type of revolutionary concepts when it comes to basketball. With this whole idea that you're going to fire up a shot every 5 seconds, and had a lot of success with it. I mean, one of the most innovative guys. They portray him as if he was a complete loser, like with no faith in himself whatsoever. And, it does seem like a stretch of the imagination. Sean, always a pleasure. Heavy.com is where you'll find Sean Devaney, and it's a pleasure to find him here when he comes on with us talking about the NBA. Thanks so much for being with us, my friend, and enjoy the rest of the postseason.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate
All
it.
right,
Man.
thanks a lot. Was that a bad way to sign an interview off? Because it made it sound like we didn't want him to come back on before next season. No, we'll have him on again. He was great, right? He really knows his stuff.
One of my go-tos. He's great with basketball. He knows his stuff, and he being in this platform with a lot more time, it's allowed us to have him, expound on things in a way we always couldn't before. So, hey, look, he everything he said about the Heat made a lot of sense, and it was literally what I said watching that game. And it's like, dude, I didn't realize they were 7:35. Like, come on, man. Like at some point, and they were getting calls in the paint, so it's like, and they kept it close. It's just they couldn't. They would get to down 3 and then they shoot 5 threes in a row. It's like, guys, just go to the basket, please. Like, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, this is one of the things that people, the cynics, would imply, and maybe there's some merit to it. Will eventually just ruin interest and evaporate interest in the game. And there are games like that in the NBA. I mean, this is very much like the overwhelming number of strikeouts and lack of balls in play in baseball,
Exactly.
where in that case, you're watching something for 3.5 hours where nothing transpires. I mean, look, as great as the fights were in those couple of prelim fights where the one guy wasn't really doing much except trying to hang in there to collect a paycheck and, had like 25 losses on his record. And it's cool to showcase a young kid, right? A couple of those young guys. I understand the whole principle there. I've been around the boxing game long enough to know how it works, where you might have a couple of local guys that can sell some tickets. Okay, so they're in their first or second pro bout. You're going to put them in there with a guy that essentially is willing to go in there and take a pretty good beating. Is capable of hanging in, making something happen maybe a little bit at times during a fight, but is in there to rack up loss number 26, essentially, and collect a payday. But, when they got to, the actual action, in that third bout, you saw, wow, here's a guy that's smoking a guy who's actually competitive. And you're thinking, wow, that kid's a real prospect, and you can embrace it. But in the NBA, I mean, when those fights were taking place and they didn't have that kind of compelling action, Lubie, I mean, if that was the whole card, eventually we said, hey, what is this?
Yep.
And in the NBA, when you have a team that shoots, 53 pointers in a game and they only make even 10. I understand the mathematics, right? You're getting the extra points, so it's like shooting a higher percentage than the 20%. Maybe it's like shooting 30% from the field, which you still wouldn't take, but it's horrendous to watch. I mean, it just is. Guys coming down the floor on a fast break, and they're 3-on-1, and the guy stops and hoists up a 3 that bricks off the back rim.
Break it. I mean, like you totally ruin momentum.
Yeah.
Basketball's as big about momentum as anything. Like you have a chance. I don't know. I don't mind the 3-point ball, but to sit there and keep jacking it up when the defense is clear, like, sure. There's a reason they're like, sure, guys. Like, the mentality of, well, I'm going to keep shooting.
Remember when, you were playing in some recreational league or whatever, or school even, and the guy would say, yeah, that's it. Pull it back out and work the offense. You're like, work what offense? One guy goes flying to the basket there, twisting and turning his way in. And then, of course, 3 guys gather around him, and he shoots it out to the corner. And a guy that you're not even thinking is a great shooter shoots a 3, right? That's the way it goes in basketball these days. All right, but it's still interesting. And, wow, I don't know why I fully expect the Heat to just go ahead and win that home game in game number 5. Is that being naive?
They should.
Based on what, though? I mean, they have not looked, good at all.
No.
In these last 2 ball games, and it's Jimmy Butler or nothing, and thank goodness Butler's hitting, but I don't know. Is he going to be able to do that every game? He's not the kind of guy that scores 40 a game every game.
Well, the Heat aren't built
Doesn't
like
even want to. Yeah.
the Heat aren't built like that. The Heat need Hero and Strus, and Oladipo got to the line and he was better, but he still wasn't good. And Lowry with Lowry clearly isn't healthy, but 6 points. I mean, if you're going to be out there, you got to do more than that. And also not seeing Robinson. Spoelstra does this in-game stuff where he sort of just rides with what he has, and you'll see the next game be something different. So that's why I think they'll win this game, because I think you're going to see Robinson. I think Deadman will probably be back. I think they're going to realize, okay, we need to go at Embiid, because whatever Embiid's doing on offense, he sucks on defense. Like, he looks slow. He looks old. Like, he's fouling a lot. He's lazy. Like, their defense outside of Harris isn't good. So attack it. Like, they're giving you threes.
Maxey looks like he plays hard on defense.
Maxey's fine defensively, but he's not an elite defender. Like, they don't have elite defenders. Like, their defense is in. So, and Harden, come on, is a sip. So, like, for me, the way they're playing is playing right into the hands of the Sixers. I presume Spoelstra will change it. He's good from game to game. It's just,
we'll see.
In game, he's sort of in. Like, in game, Spoelstra rides with the plan he had, and if it's not working, that's what happens. And you saw that the last 2 games.
Just saw a funny shot. That's why I was distracted there for a second. Watching a lot of Tennis Channel early in the morning. They have all these great European tournaments, including, we didn't mention this Carlos Alcaraz. You see what he did this weekend? He mows down Nadal on the red clay in Madrid on Friday. The new guy beating the old guy. And, of course, both, Nadal, a Spanish legend. And Alcaraz is the guy that's supposed to follow in his footsteps and is doing every bit of it. He beats Nadal in 3 sets. Comes back, beats Djokovic the next day. Djokovic, who's rounding into form after getting off to kind of a sluggish start here once he got back into action. So he's mowed down Nadal and Djokovic. This kid's 19.
Wow.
And then wins the tournament by beating Zverev, who, is like number 2 in the world.
Oh, my God.
And that seemed like a gimme. And it was a gimme for the guy. He beats him in 2 sets, annihilation. 6-3, 6-1. Wow. I mean, very, very exciting. But they just had a shot up, and I guess these guys were a doubles team. Is that possible?
Okay.
Diego Schwartzman, who goes about 5'5".
Favorite.
Okay. And John Isner, who goes 6'11".
Really? That's a combo. That's fun. That's like old school.
Picture, they took a picture of them at the net there. It was like twins with Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. It was really something, huh?
That's great.
And when you see the height differential, it's amazing. This Schwartzman kid, our favorite Jewish tennis player since Harold Solomon, and Jay Berger, I'm assuming, was Jewish also. Was he Jewish? Because that would mean that Daniel Berger is a Jewish PGA golfer. Which
yes, he is. They're Jewish. Yep.
Is he one of like 2 Jews? I mean, is Sergio Garcia mysteriously Jewish? What do you think?
Sergio's not Jewish.
Not Jewish.
And I don't think any of these. There's not many other Jews, but yes, I think Daniel Berger and Jay Berger are Jewish. Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. But Schwartzman, our favorite Jewish tennis player on the scene right now. Yes. And, you're wondering how this guy, little guy can go out there and compete with these, absolutely fine-tuned, athletes that seem to be the perfect size for the game, going now like 6'2", 6'3", and in tremendous condition. And yet he goes out there and gives them a battle every time. But, with Isner, that was really the long and the short of it. I mean, literally so. So interesting shot. But these tournaments have been great. And this Carlos Alcaraz, Lubie.
I know you've talked about him a lot. Mayo talked about
him.
Not Mayo. Harvey talked about him a lot too. You and Harvey been all in on this Alcaraz kid.
Well, he won Miami, and then I think he won Monte Carlo.
That's crazy.
Now he's he just won this latest tournament here, which was taking place in Madrid. Which I mean, the French Open is right around the corner here, Lubie. It's coming up in like a week or so.
Nice.
So, or 2 weeks, and you would have to think that this guy is going to get major consideration to win it all. I mean, you're not catching this guy at a price anymore. But beating Nadal, and Djokovic back to back on the red clay, just absolutely phenomenal in his home country there of Spain. All right, coming back to wrap things up here in just a moment on the Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday edition of the Defo Show. Our thanks to Sean Devaney for joining us here on the program. See, I'm starting to believe that Westhead is the most absurd portrayal in winning time.
I have to see it. I saw when he first came in because McKinney pulled him out of being like a high school math teacher or something.
Yeah.
And he came in to like be the helper, and I haven't seen the last few episodes. Like I need to get back. I lost my HBO.
The whole time, though, he seems so unsure of himself.
He was like sort of nebbish.
Can't make a decision to wipe his own ass.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure out, do I go righty or lefty on this thing? You
He
know,
was like scared of his own shadow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how they're portraying him.
and Riley abuses him on this program. I mean, completely abuses Paul Westhead. The Riley character, and then I still can't get by it, man. I mean, who else is he? That is not that actor's real schnoz? Because I mean, that is
Yes,
an
bro,
unusual.
he's won Oscars. He's a great actor. He just
Yeah.
is weird to be a basketball coach. Like, you never
No, to
think-
be Pat Riley. I mean, a basketball coach. Okay. I mean, he doesn't look
Riley.
that far off the part.
He doesn't look like Riley.
I mean, if Nick Nolte was a basketball coach,
He looks like an old school Bob Knight basketball coach, like Adrian Brody. He was in like the pianist. He doesn't look like he just doesn't, especially Riley. Like the way, like not even a little.
All right. Yeah, no, Riley, maybe slightly body type. That would be about it. And a lot of bad hair pieces, man. Whoever was doing the costuming and the makeup and hair. Those are some of the worst hair pieces we've seen since Joe Pesci and JFK. All right, we're coming back with more. We'll wrap things up in just a moment here. Now that.
The time.
How about that? Canelo losing an 80-1 shot in a derby. The world has gone mashugana. It's beautiful, people. It's 8:54. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Ric Flair, the world's heavyweight champion. I don't have to say a lot more about the way I feel about Ric Flair. No respect, no honor. There is no honor among thieves. He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family. Daddy.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
All right, we killed off Joe Pepitone here on the program. We love you, Joe. Very much alive, man. I mean, a real, indicative of a spirit of New York City at the time, the great Joe Pepitone. Of course, with the blow dryer in the hair. He was a character, Lubie, when it was, uncommon to have anybody go anywhere against the grain, anywhere outside of the militaristic tenets that athletes had to live by back in the day there with the crew cut and the whole thing. He was, I guess, a baseball version, a little bit of Joe Willie. Would you say that's a fair statement, Lubie? That well, you didn't know Joe.
I didn't know Pepitone. I know of him, so when you used to remember him,
you wouldn't know Joe Pepitone from Joe Friday. What am I talking to you about?
I don't remember him actually around sports. Like I wasn't there as a player. If he was a coach.
Yankee pinstripes, man, number 25. No, he was great. Joe Pepper, good first baseman, man. And a very effective catalytic type bat, where he would come through with a lot of big hits for the Yankees in a good era of Yankee baseball there. Where I'm not sure how good the team was all the time, but Joe Pepitone was always somebody that provided a little bit of a spark. Anyway, a lot of fun being with you today. Oh wow, I mean, upset city all over the place. Rich strike. They're debating whether to send this horse to the Preakness. Very arduous to come back. I'm finally in favor of changing the whole parameters of the Triple Crown Series. Would you say that it is a little ridiculous to expect a horse? I know we had a couple of Triple Crown winners, as we were saying earlier, with American Pharoah and Justify in recent years. But there were all these long gaps between Triple Crown winners, like 37 years, and then it would happen again. Tough, huh, for these horses now, the way that they race to come back 2 weeks later and run another race at a mile and
That's what it
3/16.
feels like. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what.
And then 3 weeks later, going to Belmont Stakes.
Yep.
You don't see that happen that often. I mean, this caliber of horse, doesn't even necessarily go every 5 weeks, much less 3 times in a 5-week span. So very arduous road. I don't know. Does Rich Strike come back and strike it rich again for his backers? And we have a Cinderella story of all time with this Sandy Leone, who was the jockey who nobody ever heard of before,
Never.
right?
You've
Except
never
the people in Ohio, right? I mean,
Never.
you're going to get some Skyline chili and then heading to Beulah Park. I mean, what are we talking about here? Crazy stuff. So that was wild. And then Canelo losing. Wow. I mean, and they came very close to robbing this kid, Bevo. He 2-1 out punches and outlands Canelo Alvarez in the fight, and he wins 115, 113 on all 3 cards, which essentially is 7-5 in rounds.
It's close. So it's close. Even though Canelo
Close.
doesn't do anything.
Canelo doing nothing, right? I mean, he's hanging out there smoking a cigarette in the corner like he was Ricardo Mayorga. Yeah.
He's his last. That's why, I was super excited about Canelo early in his career, but he's done the Mayweather. He's like, look, he got so famous and so big. He realized if I just coast through, I'll win every fight.
Yeah.
And that's a shitty ass way to be a boxer.
Well, especially since they're using like the modified Stableford scoring system whenever they score a Canelo fight. What the hell are you guys watching, man? And that's just criminal. That the thing was even that close. Some observers gave like Canelo like 1 round in the entire fight. So not much of an effort there. Although he was bumping up to light heavyweight, Lubie, so maybe he's just reached his limit of what he can do. Right? I mean, he was going to fight as a heavyweight. He was going to fight this guy Usyk, who holds one of the heavyweight belts, and I would suppose all bets are off on that, as Canelo has to now line up. I don't know. Does he keep going after losing? I guess, maybe a rematch with the same guy, comes back, redeems himself,
Probably.
fights 1 or 2 more times, gets a 70-year-old Golovkin in the ring for the 3rd fight. It'll be like Leonard Hearns 3.
Oh my gosh.
Which was an atrocity. Was that 2 or 3? Did they fight 2 or 3 times, Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns? Was that like a rematch, like 20 years after the fact? It was kind of the inspiration for that, maybe the worst De Niro movie ever, right? Which was Grudge Match. Remember that?
Yes.
That was awful, right? When he,
remember.
he fought Stallone, and no, just horrible. I mean, maybe I have to make an amendment though. The Gambler with Mark Wahlberg was not as bad as I originally thought.
Okay, what changed?
A remake.
Saw it again, so it was better.
Saw it again. I watched it last night to give it a fair rating. It was comparable to the first movie. They stole, obviously it was a remake, but so they had a lot of the parallel storylines. I have to admit, I didn't think it was as bad as I did the first time I saw it. All right, Libby, is that fair? We made a retraction here on the show.
Sure, whatever you say.
All right, we'll have our Believe podcast later on. Of course, you can catch portions of the program on 5 Reasons Sports Network. And later on this afternoon, the insufferable Mike Mayo will be hosting his Lunchbox show, which I'm a part of. And today, I'm just going to be a punching bag on that show. I'm going to feel like Segredo does on Wednesday when we have him on here. And he starts getting too sanctimonious on us about the NCAA being a great organization. Come on, Tony. We love it. All right, tomorrow we'll have Harvey Fialkov. A lot of great tennis going on leading up to the French Open. I'm sure he'll be chomping at the bit also to talk about this Carlos Alcaraz, who is maybe the biggest rising star, fastest rising star in sports right now. Carlos Alcaraz, the tennis player.
Definitely in tennis, that's for sure.
And he fits the bill, and he's ready for it. He's built for it. He's made for it. I think it's going to be a real long ride with this guy. He's a top tennis player. We're very excited about that if you're a fan of the sport. And we'll also have the agent to the stars, Brett Tesser, talking about the NFL. Then Wednesday, Tony Segredo. Thursday, Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Thanks again. Congratulations to the people in Hialeah Park. Wonderful, wonderful night there all the way around. A lot of fun in the Champion simulcasting room. And, of course, a great night of boxing there under the stars, which, only for a second there. Did you feel the tremors when no, Frankie looked super cool the entire time. Wow, it's like I mean, he looked like he was ready to go on Dancing with the Stars himself, didn't he? Or get in there and maybe go 12 with, one of the fighters in the undercard. could have done it, man. He looks in great shape. So thanks, Frankie, for a great evening there and the people at Hialeah Park. And then Friday, we'll have another Degenerate Friday. The professor was good seeing him out there. Professor recognition factor, huh?
Yes. The guy was like, "Are you the professor?" And Ken is not a fan at all with any extraneous attention.
Yes.
So I just started laughing. I'm like, Defo is going to love this. The guy was a nice guy.
Obviously watching a show there
Yeah, I
from the
guess he
Champion
listened.
Simulcast room.
Yeah, great.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 in the a.m. here on the Defo Show. Thanks to the people at Ion Channel keeping the thing going. For Mike Lubie, Lubitz, I'm Jeff Deforrest. And you guys have a great time out there. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:03.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.